Hi, I'm Nikki.
And I'm Megan.
Welcome to the Grimdark Diaries.
We're your geek gal pals obsessed with true crime and all things dark and disturbing.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We have just returned from a wonderful vacation in Cape Breton, where Megan and I went on an eating tour of Sydney, Cape Breton.
It was such a good eating tour.
We were there for the convention, but really, we were there for the eating tour of all the restaurants we went to.
I keep telling everybody that the times in between when we were at the con or talking about the con, we were trying to figure out what we were going to eat or eating.
Yeah, it was great.
It really was.
We had to search all the places where I could get vegetarian food and you could get celiac safe food. So we found like all of these perfect intersections of food, and I ate potatoes for literally every single meal, but like in a good way. Like that is what I wanted.
Yeah. If it didn't have potatoes, we were moving on.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I was surprised actually how many restaurants did give us what we wanted. I was pretty surprised.
We were wildin', paying customers. People will give you what you want. It's great. We had a great time, great convention. Megan and I had lots of fun. We met lots of people. It was a good experience.
It really was. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I didn't get a picture with the big fiddle, by the way. I realized that after we got back. I was like, damn, I forgot. I got a picture of the back.
You were going to go that first night, but it was too windy.
It was way too windy. But I did take a picture of it from behind. That sounds bad, but you know what I mean. We were in the restaurant behind the big fiddle up on the second floor, and I had a really good view of the big fiddle from behind. So I did take a picture of it, but it was way too windy. And by the time we were done eating, it was kind of getting dark anyway. So,
well, that's every time we came home from the convention, it was getting dark out or dark out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
By the time I went inside and took off my cosplay.
I think that first night, though, was the night before the con started. So it was a little late when we...
Oh, yeah. No, we were just being lazy then.
Yeah. Yeah. It was still really fun, though. I had a great time. I got to see the sights and sounds of Sydney, Nova Scotia, which is a beautiful little town, city. I don't know what it is. Town? It definitely feels like a town. It definitely feels like a town, for sure.
Now you have a sweater that says Sydney, too.
Yes, I do. I love my new sweater. It's very comfortable. I enjoy it quite a lot. Quite a lot. It's too bad they didn't have that made in Sydney or made in Cape Breton one that you were looking for.
I know. And you know what? I freaking saw on their Instagram that they now have a purple one.
Oh, no. When did that come in?
It's
probably
like light
Monday.
purple. I
mean,
want it.
Still, though. I mean, you do have family who live there, so.
I know, right? I still might buy it. They didn't put it on their website yet. I'm going to check back. Yeah. Well, anyway, that's not interesting to everyone else that's listening. Hello, we're about to have a hurricane here. And not right now, but in 2 days. It's supposed to be a hurricane here. Yeah, so if anyone else lives on the East Coast, how is your hurricane? Let us know.
Because this will be coming out after the hurricane. Provided that we make it through without interruption of...
Oh my God, Megan.
Technology, I wasn't... Way to assume the worst. I meant if the power goes out for like a week.
Blow down.
No. I'm talking about the power, because power here goes out in salty fog, so it could very well be out for a while because of high winds and rain from a hurricane. Especially, it's supposed to hit us at a category 2, so we shall see.
Our power is pretty good in this new... I guess the house isn't new now, it's over a year. But in this house, we don't really lose power. The only time we really lost power was that really bad ice snowstorm that we had last winter. And there was literally all of the power lines were completely coated in ice. And it was so heavy that the power lines fell down on our street.
Wow.
So, yeah. So understandable that we lost power then. But other than that, we haven't really lost power, which is good.
That's good. Hopefully they can withstand a category 2 hurricane winds. You haven't lived there through a hurricane
hope so. I gotta
yet.
go outside and collect all my plants.
Yes, bring everything inside, keep it from flying around. I always worry about my apartment if it's going to withstand the winds. I'm on the bottom floor, so I'm always worried all the floors are going to cave in on top of me.
I feel like the chances of that are pretty slim.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm always a worst case scenario thinker, so of course.
Okay, well, my category for last week, I hope everyone remembers because I sure didn't. So I had to open up my sound file on Tuesday, a day before we recorded, to write a story. And I had to figure out what my category was because I sure as heck didn't remember once I went on vacation.
I always forget my category. I always have to look it up before we record. I'm like, what was it again?
I usually always remember, but I don't know. This time I just could not. I was racking my brain trying to figure out what it was.
What I started doing was on the story, I write the top. I write, like, in the actual document that I'm writing, I write the episode number and what the category was so that I can remember.
Oh, I always do that. But I just happened to not write this until literally yesterday.
Oh, that's fair.
Oh, we were on vacation.
We were busy. Yeah, exactly.
We literally left the night after we recorded.
That's so true. Actually, the morning. Yeah, early in the morning drove.
Or the morning after we recorded.
Yeah.
So my category was folie à deux.
Oh, yeah.
And we've said that multiple times. And you might be like, what the hecky are they talking about? So if you don't know what that is, a folie à deux is French. And it means folly of two. Or it implies madness shared by two. It's also known as shared psychosis or shared delusional disorder. And it's a collection of rare psychiatric syndromes in which symptoms or a delusional belief and sometimes hallucinations are transmitted from one individual to another. The same syndrome shared by more than two people can be called folie à trois or quatre or more, which I didn't know. I knew that happened, but I didn't realize it had like a different name.
Yeah, I didn't actually know it could be more than two, to be honest with you. I'd only ever heard of the two.
You can even have folie en famille. So it'd be family madness, which I did hear a case once about that. That's the only reason I knew that there could be more.
Okay, that's kind of interesting.
That happened to. I saw one story too. Whoa, I just really yelled that out. I was excited. I saw one story about how they called it folie à deux, but they couldn't really tell for sure. But it was an older lady and her dog, because the older lady started to get super paranoid and think her upstairs neighbor apparently was really noisy all of a sudden. And so she thought that he was trying to drive her mad so that she would move so he could steal her apartment or something. So then she started to kind of go a little insane. And then she built like a bomb shelter in her apartment underneath a table, and she like taught her dog when he heard these noises to like hide in the shelter. So it was this whole article on if that was folie à deux shared between a human and a dog, or if that was just one extremely well-trained dog.
What? Oh my gosh.
But she made the dog paranoid too. It was very interesting.
She named the dog Paranoid?
No, made.
Oh, made the dog. I thought you said named. I'm like, wow, that
dogs pick up on your feelings or whatever.
Absolutely.
I don't own a dog.
No, but they do. Yeah, they're absolutely in tune with human emotion and respond accordingly.
Well, I'm sticking with a deux today. So just two.
Okay.
Just two people of shared madness.
Yeah, no big deal.
No, two. Two's fine. Ursula and Sabina Eriksson are identical twins. They were born November 3rd, 1967 in Värmland, Sweden. I don't know if I said that right. It's the best I could do. Sweden. Värmland, Sweden. They had an older sister named Mona and an older brother named Bjorn. I couldn't seem to really find anything about their life growing up. None of the family, including the sisters, had any kind of criminal record or were in the news or sounded like did anything really of note. And there were no reports of any diagnosed or undiagnosed mental illness or even suspicion of mental illness in the family. So I feel like they were probably just a completely normal average family, which is why it was very hard to find anything.
That makes sense. Nothing noteworthy to write about, probably.
By the year 2000, Sabina moved to Ireland with her husband and 2 children, and Ursula had moved to the United States of America. They both lived out their lives separately with no issues or concerns from other family members. So by all accounts, they were just normal women living normal lives. In May of 2008, Ursula went to Ireland to visit Sabina, and within 24 hours of Ursula arriving, it was late in the evening, the twin sisters secretly left Sabina's home and started heading to Liverpool, England on a ferry. So they didn't notify anybody, didn't tell her husband or their children, nothing. Just secretly each grabbed a bag and left. When they arrived, they first showed up at a local police station and said that they were concerned for the safety of Sabina's children back in Ireland. Police found it odd that they had just come on a ferry from Ireland to England and reported that, because they don't understand why you would immediately leave there and report that. Why wouldn't you report concern before leaving? Mm-hmm. So they didn't really, they were confused. So they decided to call Irish authorities and ask them to do a welfare check at her home. They went, they checked, they confirmed the children were just fine. So then the twins left the police station and they got on a bus that was going to London. While on the bus, other passengers and the driver remember very odd behavior from the sisters. They refused to check their bags in the luggage compartment. I'm assuming if it was a traveling bus, it's one of those ones where you put the luggage like underneath on the outside.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I assumed it was something like that.
Right. That I can't imagine where else they would put luggage on a bus.
No, I mean, I don't know in London if the luggage compartments are different. I have no idea.
Be. Yeah, I'm not sure either.
But here you kind of shove it underneath the bus on the outside. Well, in like a hole. In
From
like
the
a
outside.
thing under.
There's like a layer underneath that where the seats are under the bus where all the luggage goes. Yeah.
Yes. So everyone was supposed to check their luggage. They absolutely refused. Staff tried to kind of take it from them and be like, you have to put your luggage under here. And they got super enraged and they were like, no, you're not taking this luggage. So staff kind of conceded and let them take the luggage onto the bus. This next part, I did see 2 versions in articles, but they reach the same conclusion. So either way, they end the same. So either while traveling on the bus, they got in an argument with passengers and the driver and they were kicked off, or I also saw that they told the driver they weren't feeling well, so the bus made an unplanned stop and the sisters got off the bus, but since the driver was feeling really sketched out by them, that they weren't allowed back on. But either way, they were absolutely for sure left at a service station on this route.
Oh, wow.
So whatever happened, they were not allowed back on the bus.
It was severe enough that they were not allowed back on. Whatever it was. Yeah. One way or the other, that's still not good.
Yeah. And everyone had recounted just like they were very weird on the bus. Very paranoid, acting very odd, disturbing other people on the bus. So
that's
everybody was sketched
fair.
out.
What year did you say this was again?
2008.
That would have been after the incident in Alberta or Saskatchewan where the man decapitated a passenger on a Greyhound bus.
Yes. That's a horrifying story.
That is horrifying. So I feel like every story that I hear about strange behavior on a bus, I immediately think of that story. And I'm like, yep, you know what? I would kick them off too. It's better to be safe than sorry, honestly.
The manager of the service station where they were left also noticed their weird behavior, so much so that they actually called the police to come check them out.
Wow.
Police arrived, spoke with the sisters, but in speaking to them, they didn't feel like they were a threat to anyone. So the police couldn't do anything about it. You can't take someone in for acting a little odd.
Right. Yeah. It's not illegal to be weird or odd.
No. I'd be in jail.
I think we all would.
So after police spoke with them, they deemed everything to be okay, if not just a little bit weird. So they were allowed to just go about their day. What happens next is where we really go off the rails. Here's where the shared madness starts getting a little mad.
We haven't already? They got kicked off a bus. Okay.
This is just weird, but now we're going to go off the rails.
Okay.
After police left the sisters, they decided to walk along one of the busiest highways in England called the M6. They can be seen on the motorway's closed circuit cameras walking along the center median, and it is not made for pedestrians.
No way. Very busy.
It is, yes, extremely busy. It's a very long highway, which I realize over there they call them motorways. We call them highways over here.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't really know if there's a
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes.
Okay.
But they do say motorway. I don't know if there is a difference, or if that's just a difference.
That kind of speed, like 100 kilometers an hour or something like that? Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, multiple lanes. It looked like multiple lanes. There was at least 2 lanes for sure, but it looked like there could be 3 or 4 on either side. I'd have to go back and watch.
Whoa.
Because there's videos and there's pictures.
How many times did I yell at people biking or walking on the highway when we were traveling to Cape Breton this weekend? I'm like, you should not be walking or biking on the highway where people are going over 100 kilometers an hour. You were just asking for it. Oh, that's so scary. Especially with that many lanes.
Oh, yeah. And traffic was going fast. They were going, based on the video, I'd say people on this, I'd say the speed limit here is at least 100 kilometers an hour. Whew. Which, if you are American, I believe is 60 miles per hour. I believe 60 miles.
I think you're right.
Kilometers.
Yeah, because like 0 to 60 is the saying for cars, how fast they go from 0 to 60, but 60 is actually 100 kilometers an hour here.
Yeah. I would assume that in England they use kilometers.
I think they do too, yeah.
So I assume that we got that from them.
Yes. Other than the driving on the left side of the road, we got everything else from them. We don't do that though.
Yeah. So they're walking up this highway and they're in the median. And what it looked like is that there's kind of like little guardrails on either side of the median to obviously protect traffic if there was an accident. Mm-hmm. And so there's a little bit of space in between the 2 guardrails, and they were walking in there on the median. So they ran across the highway to get onto the median.
Oh, God.
And then they're walking there. Not safe.
No, that's so scary. Oh my gosh. Why would they do this?
Yeah. It happened that on this day, a crew for the TV show Motorway Cops was filming there.
Motorway Cops. I love it.
Yeah. Me so too. Good. I searched up the show, and it's a British documentary series on BBC, and it follows day-to-day like traffic officers and all the incidents they come across.
Oh, that's interesting. It's kind of like Cops in the US, but like just
it's like Cops, except it's just traffic crimes, and everybody is way more polite.
Oh, that's so funny. Is that really good entertainment? I don't know. I mean, on this day it would have been.
I don't know. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Although I do guess if they see accidents or something like that, then it probably would be a little more interesting. And I think it would be a lot
of accidents because it's all traffic related crimes.
Right, so right.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as wild as Cops is in the US.
No. Oh no, Cops became very much a
sensationalized.
Sensationalized, thank you. That was the word I was looking for. Mm-hmm. For sure.
The film crew noticed the women because it was very unusual to see any pedestrians on the highway. And so they saw them running up the median and dodging around traffic. And they ended up actually filming some of it because that is a rare sight to see.
Yes, I bet it would be.
At this point, they're not only running up the median, but the sisters kept running out into traffic.
What?
With the oncoming cars. Yes.
What is...
Right.
I don't understand.
I'm going to be real with you. There's no explanation for anything in this story. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Great. I love that.
That's why it is a shared madness.
Yeah.
It was just madness.
I guess. Jeez.
So they're running in the median. They're running out into traffic. Cars are swerving around them. One of them even did get hit by a car.
Holy.
It looked like the impact wasn't too hard, but she definitely got clipped by a car. You can see it in videos.
Wow.
So at this point, people are reporting this. That motorway film crew is reporting this. And
while they record
also
it.
I noticed that they call it, when I was watching the documentary, the actual cops, they were calling it a carriageway too.
A carriageway? Like where they were walking?
Yeah. No, like instead of a highway.
Oh.
It's a carriageway.
Okay.
I liked it. I thought that sounded nice.
I guess it might be like an old school way to say it because it used to be like horse and carriages.
Yeah.
Maybe from back in the day.
100%. That's what it is. I like it. Carriageway. That sounds really nice.
Yeah. I guess it makes more
sense. The same if someone saying highway, freeway, motorway.
It does make more sense. Like motorway and carriageway actually make more sense to me in my head about what
I don't know what a highway is.
Than a highway or a freeway. Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Like, I can't actually picture what that would be. Why do we call them that? I don't know.
I have no idea. England knows what's up.
Yeah, apparently. I don't know why we didn't adopt that from them.
Right? So all these people were reporting this. These two women. Officers approached because there's traffic officers that they have there at the ready on the carriageway. So they go up to the women and they start talking to them to figure out what the heck they were doing. They brought them on to the shoulder. There was kind of like a gravel, like not a sidewalk, but there was like a gravel shoulder where there was cop cars pulled over and officers were out talking to the two women. And this is all recorded on video. It's in an episode of that motorway thing. So you can see this all. And so officers are trying to talk to them, trying to figure out what's going on. And everything seemed calm. Both women were speaking to police. And they weren't like freaking out, but they also weren't like world's most normal women ever. You know what I mean? They were just trying to figure out what was going on. And they just didn't seem to have an answer. And then all of a sudden, Ursula takes off and runs straight onto the highway.
What?
One of the officers tries to grab her, but he only got a hold of her jacket. He couldn't get actually a hold of her arm. So she did like a freak spin move, took off her jacket in like a second and ran directly onto the highway across multiple lanes until she was struck and run over by a 40-ton box truck.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Holy.
And it was almost like that's what she saw it coming. You can see her looking and it's like she sees the huge, which I'm assuming a box truck is what we call like a transfer truck or what's something else. Truck? There's something else we call it here.
A transport truck? Like an 18-wheeler?
I say a transfer truck. Apparently it's also box truck.
Okay. I think maybe, do you mean like an 18-wheeler? Like the longer cargo beds?
In my head, a box truck would be more shaped like a box. You can see it on the video. Either way, whatever people call that, it's like one of those big trucks that carries cargo or shipping or whatever, McDonald's fries. I don't know. Just those huge trucks.
Yeah, the transport trucks. I did not know there were other names for that. I've heard 18-wheeler.
Really? Oh, there's lots. There's more
truck.
that people call it in Canada too. I can't think of the other one that I hear a lot. Yeah, so either way, a 40-ton truck. We'll go with that.
That's a lot.
40-ton truck.
That is a heavy truck. Going 100 miles or kilometers an hour.
I would assume 100 kilometers, yes.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that it is a highway of some kind.
Ooh.
So it hits her. It runs over her legs. So she actually ends up having her legs completely crushed by the truck. The truck does stop pretty quickly. So like good for them.
Yeah.
But I mean, any hit at that speed from a vehicle that big is going to be brutal no matter how quick you stop.
Absolutely.
But like they stop pretty friggin' fast. So like good for that driver.
Slammed on his brakes. I think I would too if I had a person run out in front of me and get crushed by my vehicle.
And people might have been slowed down a little bit because there was police cars on the side of the road. So you know how usually
fair
you do slow down a little bit, mostly because people are rubbernecking, but
I don't know.
So
I've driven in London before, and I'm not going to lie. I love you guys over there, but y'all are like crazy drivers.
Really?
I don't know. I felt it was reckless, but I also grew up with a cop for a dad. So, I mean, maybe we're just like extra careful drivers, but I don't know. I was very scared driving there myself. But that's just me.
I mean, I don't know. The highway looked pretty normal to me. It looked like your average highway. So Ursula gets hit, her legs get crushed, and within seconds of Ursula running out and being hit by the truck, Sabina also follows suit, and she runs into the nearest lane of traffic and jumped in front of a car that was going at highway speed.
Why? I do not understand. Why would they do that? I'm like almost sad about it. Like that's so sad.
You should be slightly sad. They're clearly not well.
No.
Her impact on the car was so hard that the windshield and the car frame above the windshield was completely crushed in.
Oh my gosh. Like in a body shape, basically?
Yeah.
Holy. That is so tragic. Like, that's so, so sad. I don't know why.
I find that rough, too, because imagine if you were driving on the road on your way to work or whatever to buy an ice cream, and all of a sudden you hit somebody. Like, that's traumatic for the driver.
Comment got me.
What? I'm trying to think of I thought of work and I'm like, that's not like a happy thing you're going to though. So I was like, what's happy if you're driving to go get an ice cream?
I found a place that offers gluten-free ice cream in my head. That's really exciting. Yes. Okay, go on.
Yes. And you're driving, you're just having a great old day. And all of a sudden you hit somebody. Like you wouldn't realize at first. I feel like you wouldn't be like, oh, this person intentionally ran in front of my car. You would think you hit somebody, which would be horribly traumatic for you as a driver.
I can't imagine how those poor people are today. Like that would stay with you forever.
Oh my goodness,
I can't even imagine that.
I'd be so scared to drive again.
I freak out when a friggin' rock hits my car. And freak out because I'm worried that my windshield's gonna crack and it's gonna come in or something happens. I was it something? Was it a bird? Was it, I start to freak out. I can't even begin to imagine what it would be like to hit a person. Oh my gosh, no. Scary.
Once this happened, because Ursula runs out and within seconds, Sabina runs out. It's like Ursula runs, hit, Sabina runs before police could even process what happened. Wow. So then the police run out in traffic after them and they're trying to stop traffic on that side of the highway, obviously, because now the two women are lying on the pavement and they're calling ambulances to try and come now as well. Ursula, who was hit by the big truck, was very seriously injured on the pavement. And officers were with her doing what they could. They had those little blankets that look like aluminum foil. You know what I mean? The little road blankets like those and stuff.
They're for shock. Yeah. To keep them warm from the shock that they're going to.
So they just had that and they were trying to, talk to her and let her know that the ambulance was on the way. Sabina, who put the dent in the car, was unconscious at first, but then she regained consciousness and started yelling at police. And
what?
Yeah.
They're both alive after this? I'm shocked.
Oh, yeah. Both are alive.
Gosh.
And they could tell with Ursula that she was definitely in worse condition because they could see that her legs had been crushed.
Yeah.
Sabina, they couldn't tell externally what injuries she had, but same thing. They got one of those blankets and they were with her on the ground, I think they might have had to give her CPR because she was unconscious. Wow. And so she comes to and she starts yelling at police, and she's yelling at the ones that are trying to help her, telling them that they aren't real police, is what she kept yelling.
Uh-oh.
So then she was super paranoid because she is yelling that these are not real police. She also started yelling that they're going to steal her organs. So they were trying to keep her still on the ground until the paramedics came, because they don't know the extent of her injuries.
Are they stopping traffic at any point in this video?
They stopped. When they got hit by the cars, they stopped.
Okay. I was going to say.
As soon as the girls ran out in traffic, police ran out in traffic to stop. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So the highway's at a complete standstill because it's a divided highway.
Right.
So nobody can move. And there's like people got out of their car and tried to like take pictures and videos and stuff, and the police are all screaming at them.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. I'm just glad to hear that.
This video.
Yeah, I'm glad they stopped traffic, because I don't know why I just pictured in my head. I'm like, is traffic still like driving by frantically by them? Like,
once the girls ran into traffic, police ran in after them and stopped it.
Gotcha.
There's a whole video of this. So this episode of the motorway thing is all online. So obviously it's edited. Mm-hmm. So you can watch it. You can't see the girls impact the vehicles. They edited so you don't physically see human to car contact, but you see them run out.
Wow.
And then you see like they show the dent in the car afterwards and stuff, and they show them on the ground with the blankets over them, and they show this whole scene of Sabina screaming at police, and she was super paranoid, saying they weren't real, they were going to steal her organs. And so they're trying to keep her still on the ground, but she starts fighting them to stand up and try to get away. So she managed to stand up, and there was a female officer trying to keep a hold on her to be like, we are the police, ma'am. Like, the ambulance is coming. Please, like, stay calm. But she fought her, and then she punches her in the face. Like, Sabina punches the cop. Yeah.
Yikes.
The poor cop falls backwards onto the ground because she just whipped around and socked her. So she falls backwards. And then Sabina jumps the little guardrail fence on the median and runs across the other side of the highway.
Where the cars are still moving?
Yes, where the cars are still going in the opposite direction.
Oh my gosh. Does she get hit?
She did not get hit this time.
Okay, good.
So cars can kind of see what's going on now. So people are definitely driving more cautious. But there are still cars, and she's still running out in front of them.
Oh my Lord. These poor ladies, get them help. Wow.
The officer that got punched in the face, she said that Sabina's strength was like inhuman when she was trying to keep her from running across the street.
Really?
She was like, there was no physical way. I was holding her back.
Well, she literally just got hit by a very fast moving vehicle and then was able to get up and walk away from that. I cannot even imagine what kind of superhuman strength these girls had. Like,
no,
both of them, regardless of crushed leg, she survived. Ursula, like, I can't even imagine that.
And previous to cops getting there is footage. They did get clipped by other cars too when they were running out before police got there. Like, they were like hit and knocked down and got back up by cars.
It's almost like they were stuck, like their brain was stuck in the fight or flight setting that I say setting. I work in IT, I'm sorry. It's stuck on a setting.
We're all androids.
Like, pretty much. And they couldn't get out of it. So when you get into a spot where you're like, a piece of really heavy machinery falls on you and you have superhuman strength because you're in the survivalist, like, fight state, whatever you want to say. And then you're able to push that off when you normally wouldn't have the strength to do that. But because your body has a survival instinct, I feel like they were stuck in that mode or setting or state. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I'm sorry. I work in IT for far too long throughout my day. So those are the only words I know.
I mean, they're definitely running on adrenaline. They have to be.
Yeah. Like, that's what it feels like. It's wild for them to have that kind of strength.
Yeah.
Keep on
and I
going
think the
after
only
that.
reason that Ursula was not up is because her legs were literally crushed.
Exactly.
She physically could not get up.
Yeah. Wow.
So Sabina runs the other side of the street screaming, and officers ran and followed her, and they stopped traffic on that side of the highway, and they're running after her, trying to calm her down, trying to get a hold of her and speak to her and reassure her that they are the cops, because she's yelling for the cops. Like, she's like, somebody help, get me the police, help. Because she doesn't think that they are the police.
That's so sad.
So they finally kind of like catch up to her, and they're trying to kind of grab her to restrain her. And she, in the video, it looks like she's squaring up to fight them. Like, she's whipping around, and it looks like she's about to like punch them all. No one stops moving. Like, she's not running anymore, but she's kind of like circling around them. So enough officers and an off-duty officer who pulled over offered to help, and they were able to restrain her. So it took 3 people to restrain her on that side of the road. And then they wanted to bring her to the other side where Ursula was so that they could stop blocking traffic on that side, because right now both sides are at a standstill. So it took 6 adults to try and carry her back over to the other side.
6?
Because she was fighting and struggling so hard that 6 grown adults could barely contain her.
Wow.
And get her over to the other side.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I do not get what she was going through.
No.
Holy moly.
And the whole time, so she was kind of like yelling and freaking out before, but now that they have her restrained and they're trying to pull her over to the other side, she is screaming for help. And she is violently kicking, because they kind of have her arms like down, but her legs are just like wild, and like they are really trying to grab her legs too. But you know, like, even if somebody has your legs, you can still move your body and flail your legs. Like, that was going on. So they kept getting loose, and 6 people had to barely get her over to the other side.
That is wild. I don't know how she still had the energy to do that.
Right? Once they did finally get her over there, they laid her down on the ground, because also they still don't know what her injuries are. And it took all 6 of the people to keep her down on the ground. So all 6 of them had to put their weight on her to keep her restrained. And she just kept yelling, help, call the police. And they keep saying, we are the police.
Yeah.
But you can tell she is like she is screaming for the police to help her. It's very, very odd.
Yeah.
Luckily, paramedics did get on the scene. Ursula, who had her legs crushed by the truck, was unable to get off the ground, but she was surprisingly in good medical condition, considering what just happened. But even with all the first responders there trying to help save her life and the police, she was resisting as well. She was screaming at them. She was scratching at them. She was spitting at them to stop, even though they were just trying to get her help. She ended up having to actually be airlifted to the hospital because her injuries were so severe to her legs.
Wow.
And Sabina was sedated once the paramedics got her there so that they could get her in an ambulance and take her to the hospital. Once Ursula was at the hospital, she was rushed into surgery for her legs, and Sabina's injuries were assessed. They seemed to be pretty okay. She really didn't have many injuries. Like, it appeared to all just kind of be superficial injuries, even though she was hit by multiple cars.
I don't get it.
No.
Wow. Is this how we find out that we have superheroes on the planet?
Maybe.
Superheroes that are maybe the anti-superhero? I don't know.
Maybe being a superhero was just too much, so it caused madness.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, if you found out that you really had powers, would you really like dive into them immediately? You probably would have like a bit of a moment to be like, this can't be real.
Yeah, they were testing it to see, can this be real?
I
can
can't think of
a speeding car?
Any other reason why they would do that.
So once Sabina was assessed and medically fine, they questioned her, the police, but she seemed calm. She answered questions with no real issues. She didn't put up a fight. So she was discharged from the hospital just 5 hours after they admitted her. But she was taken into police custody. I was going to say, I don't know. I don't know what I was going to say, but it wasn't custody.
Custody. Custody.
So right after she was discharged from the hospital, police took her right away because she did have the freak out with police. So they did have some grounds for bringing her to the police station.
Of course.
Toxicology screens showed no drugs or alcohol in Ursula's system. Sabina was not tested, though. So...
Why? She should have been tested.
Because they didn't have to do anything for her, I guess, because she was fine. So you can't
punched
force
a
somebody
police
to get a
officer in the
test.
face.
I know.
I feel like they should have had the grounds to test her.
I'm assuming that because she didn't have injuries, it medically wasn't necessary. So they didn't. I don't know.
I think it's because she didn't have injuries that she should have been tested. After all the
what are you
cars,
on?
Right? Like, man, please let us know what you're on so that we can all make sure that we're on it all the time so we can never get injured by cars hitting us.
Yeah. So the police did search those bags that the twins had that they were super protective about when they were on the bus.
Right.
The only thing in there was one passport and several cell phones.
What?
That's all they had.
That's weird.
Very.
And there's no explanation about what they're all for?
Nope. No idea. Just some cell phones.
And only one passport, but they're two people.
Yeah. So I don't know whose it was. The only thing I can think is maybe it was whichever one came from the US would have had their passport because they just flew from US to Ireland. So maybe it didn't say in the article which it was.
Right.
So maybe, I don't know, she just had her passport because she had just been traveling into the country.
Like, I don't know. I feel like as a traveler on a plane, you're usually like level-headed. You usually, like, I feel like flight attendants would have noticed if something was off or
nothing
weird.
Was off.
That's what I'm saying. Like, why then? Like, what happened? I am just so confused. I am very upset that I'm not getting closure with this story.
You won't. By all reports, both twins were perfectly normal up until that night that they left the house. Wow. Like, nobody reported anything weird. They were perfectly fine.
It's like they both had a psychotic break at the exact same time.
Well, chances are it's because it's folie deux.
Yeah, I know.
One person did, and then
true.
The other one shared in the madness.
Yeah. Wow.
So on May 19th, 2008, Sabina attended court where she pleaded guilty to the charges of trespassing on the motorway and assaulting a police officer. I assume it was for that punch in the police officer's face.
Right.
The court sentenced her to 1 day in prison, but they already made her spend one night in a cell when she got out of the hospital. So then that counted. So she was allowed to just walk free from the trial.
From the 1 day. Jeez.
Yes. Unfortunately, no one did a full psychiatric evaluation on her. They just charged her as guilty and then let her walk out of the courthouse.
What? Why? Why do you feel like there was no reason to do a psychiatric evaluation on this person?
They really should have. Because it gets worse.
Oh, God. Of course it does. Oh, no.
So at this point, this is just shortly after that whole accident, Ursula is still in hospital. Sabina was now free, but she had nowhere to go. So she was wandering around town. Because remember, they took a ferry and then a bus out here.
Right.
They had no vehicle. They had nowhere to stay. Around 7 p.m. on the day she was released, two men named Glenn Hollinshead and Peter Malloy were out walking a dog, and they saw Sabina on the side of the road. She approached them asking to pet the dog and asked if they could give her directions for any hotels or bed and breakfasts or anything like that because she had nowhere to stay and she was trying to find her sister, her twin sister that she was separated from. There was apparently not any hotels or anything like that in this particular town. I don't know if it's just a small town or like if you really needed a car to get to it. I'm not sure. But they told her there was just really nothing like that around here. And then Glenn, who was a self-employed welder but previously worked as a paramedic, was a very nice guy, and he took pity on her and her situation, and she seemed very normal when she's telling this story. So Glenn offered that she could crash at his house, and if she had nowhere to go, that he would allow her to crash there, and the next morning he could help her call the local hospitals to see if they could find her sister.
Don't do it. Please don't do it. Is it too late?
Yes. It's too late. He offered, and Sabina accepted. The three went back to Glenn's home, and I guess they were trying to kind of figure out what hospitals to call, and they were asking, where would your sister be taken? Where were you guys? They obviously didn't hear the full story. I don't know what she told him, but
it sounds like she's having like a very normal conversation.
Yes,
like
it definitely started out normal.
Level-headed, yeah.
Yes.
Ugh.
So they noticed that once they were back at Glenn's place, then she started behaving very strangely. She started constantly checking out the window and looking out the curtains, like kept peeking out. So she seemed very paranoid, like she was looking for someone or something. She had a pack of cigarettes, and she would offer both men cigarettes. And so they'd take them out, and just before they were going to light them, she would grab the smokes from them, put them back in the pack. And they'd say, like, why? You just offered me that. Why are you doing that?
That's so weird.
And she would say that they were probably poisoned, so they shouldn't be smoking them. But then a minute later, she'd take the same smoke out and she'd smoke it herself.
That is weird.
Very weird.
Definitely weird behavior for sure.
And they said it was very odd. And it wasn't even just like, you shouldn't smoke that. Like, she would grab it from them and be like, you can't smoke that.
Oh my.
And then a few minutes later, she would smoke the same cigarette.
Yeah, I'd be like, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't stay here tonight.
Maybe revoke that invitation.
Yeah, I feel like now is the time to do that.
Yes. But Glenn is apparently a really great guy. So the friend Peter Malloy, he left the home around midnight, and apparently all was well throughout the night. Sabina crashed there. And in the morning, Glenn started actually calling local hospitals to try and help Sabina find Ursula.
God love Glenn. Oh my soul, this man.
Right?
Wow.
He's a very, very sweet man.
Sweet man.
Glenn also recruited his brother to help as well. I think he just called him and was like, hey, this is the situation. Like, I'm trying to help. If you could help out, we're trying to find, her sister. She can't find her. I don't know what Sabina told him.
I love this hospitality. That's so sweet.
Right? It sounds very Cape Breton of them.
Yeah.
Later that Later that morning, Glenn went outside to ask his neighbor for some tea bags. The neighbor was in the middle of washing his car outside, so he told Glenn that he would bring a few bags over after he was finished soon. Glenn thanked him, went back in the house, and almost immediately after going back in, Glenn stumbled outside back into the driveway. He had blood pouring from stab wounds on his head.
Oh my gosh.
And he told the neighbor, she stabbed me. And then he just collapsed in the driveway.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Why?
We don't know.
So sad.
Apparently, when Glenn had gone back in the house, Sabina had been waiting with one of his kitchen knives, and she stabbed him 4 times.
That is so tragic.
Very tragic, especially considering she was just in court and released without a psychiatric evaluation.
Right. Exactly.
So Glenn's family is not happy about that.
No, I don't blame them at all.
Shortly after Glenn stumbled out, Sabina fled Glenn's house carrying a hammer that she found. And a passing motorist obviously didn't know the situation of what just happened. He saw this and he stopped to help her because he noticed she was hitting herself in the head with this hammer. And so this town must be just filled with the nicest freaking people.
Seriously.
So this guy stops to be like, oh my goodness, like, do you need help? Like, what can I do for you, kind of thing? And he was repaid for his assistance by her pulling a roofing tile out of her pocket and slamming it into his head.
What? There's a lot to unpack in that sentence you just said.
Yes.
She just randomly had a roofing tile in her pocket, and oh my gosh.
So she was hitting herself in the head with a hammer. This driver pulled over to ask if she needed help, and she pulled out a roofing tile out of her pocket and stabbed him, put it in his head.
I feel like I am, it's like a futile effort to try to make logic from this, because it sounds like she didn't have logic. Like, I was going to say, it almost sounds like she was hitting herself on the head with the hammer to try to draw somebody in so that she could do that. But I feel like there's not enough logic for that. Like, I feel like she didn't have that. I feel like she didn't want
anybody around.
Yeah. But like, how was she hitting herself hard on the head? Like, was it drawing blood? Or?
It didn't say. The only thing I could think is that if she was having hallucinations or delusions, that maybe she was trying to, or voices in her head. Maybe she was trying to make, this is my own opinion. I read this nowhere.
No, that does make sense, especially if she is having like a psychosis break, then that could be very well what was happening.
And hearing voices, maybe she was trying to get them out of her head. I don't know.
Yeah.
So by now, I think that person was fine. The roofing tile person, I didn't see anything about him perishing, so I think he survived.
Yeah.
By now, Glenn did not survive, unfortunately. When he collapsed, he was deceased.
That's so sad.
Very. By now, authorities are on the hunt after these multiple reports of Sabina. They found her and they followed her to a bridge where she immediately jumped from a height of 40 feet. The impact broke both of her ankles and fractured her skull.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, did that kill her?
No, it didn't. She was rushed to the hospital, still alive.
Wow. Oh my gosh, these girls need help. I don't understand why they didn't do the psychiatric review on her. Like, I feel like that is the biggest mistake that they could have made.
Yeah.
Wow.
So she was treated in hospital. She recovered from all of her injuries and fractures. And Sabina Eriksson was charged with the murder of Glenn Hollinshead on September 11th, 2008.
Good.
Her trial began September 1st, 2009. So a year later is when her trial began. It was unfortunately stalled due to difficulty obtaining her medical records from Sweden. So I think that they were trying to see if there was any previous mental illness reported.
Right.
Sabina pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter due to diminished responsibility. She has never explained her actions, and she has only ever responded to police questions with no comment.
What does diminished responsibility mean?
It's basically like pleading insanity. So instead of getting charged with first-degree murder, like intentional murder, you get charged with manslaughter, which is the lesser one. And then the way you justify not getting first-degree murder is that you're saying, like, you weren't mentally all there at the time, so it wasn't really your fault. Like, you didn't have full free will. You were mentally ill at the time.
Wow.
Sabina's defense team argued that she had suffered from folie à deux with her twin sister Ursula. They pointed out that this caused her to have intense delusions during the commission of all of her crimes. Both the defense and prosecution seemed to agree that she was not in her right mind when the murder occurred, but that she was definitely now stable and completely normal. So she was completely fine now. Sabina's lawyers claimed Sabina was a secondary sufferer of folie à deux, and her sister Ursula was the primary sufferer whose presence or perceived presence would influence Sabina. So what you and I said earlier, they said that it was Ursula that had some kind of a mental break of some kind,
right,
and was having the delusions and the hallucinations, and Sabina was just influenced by her twin sister.
Wow.
Mr. Justice Saunders, who passed the judge determined that she had low culpability for her crimes due to her diminished state at the time, and she was sentenced to only 5 years in prison for the murder of Glenn Hollinshead.
Wow, that's not a lot of time at all.
No.
Damn.
Mr. Justice Saunders, who passed the sentence, said, quote, "I understand that this sentence will seem entirely inadequate to the relatives of the deceased. However, I have sentenced on the basis that the reason for the killing was the mental illness, and therefore the culpability of the defendant is low, and therefore the sentence I have passed is designed to protect the public. It is not designed to reflect the grief the relatives have suffered or to measure the value of Mr. Hollinshead's life. No sentence that I could pass could do that. It is a sentence which I hope fairly measures a truly tragic event." So I don't know about that. I feel like
if it was for the people's protection, I feel like 5 years is not enough.
No, I don't know. They must have done psych evaluations and must have had professional opinions saying that she was out of her right mind when it happened, and she is no longer out of her right mind.
Yeah, but I feel like she was no longer out of her right mind when she was tried the first time and got 1 day.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there's moments where she is fine and then something happens and snaps inside of her. Like, she was also fine when she met Glenn and they were talking about her sister and trying to find her in the hospital. And
yeah.
it's
also odd that she was separated from, they're saying that Ursula was the primary sufferer and Sabina was just the secondary one that was influenced. So she was the one sharing in Ursula's madness, but she was separated from Ursula.
Yeah. So how does that work? Because
I don't know.
Is that like doesn't matter how far you are apart. If one breaks, the other does as well. Like, I can't imagine that you would have that kind of connection. I guess I don't really know. There's not really any scientific study done on it, probably not to this degree anyway, but
yeah,
does it work if you're not together but you're like in the same town, or like if you're across the pond? Like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there a distance where it stops working?
They gotta do a study and be like that commercial that, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How does one test this? I feel like you don't really want to test it because what they do while they're experiencing those moments, but
right, and you don't know when somebody's going to suffer from this.
Exactly. Wow.
In September, the year of the incident, in September of the same year of the incident, Ursula, so that was May that all happened. Sorry,
yeah. In 2008.
Far too confusing.
No, that's okay. I'm following.
So everything happened in May. September that same year, Ursula was released from hospital with no criminal charges because, I mean, they could have, I guess, got her with trespassing on the motorway, but they didn't for some reason. Mm-hmm. And it's thought that she flew right back home to her house in the U.S.
Okay.
There's no real record of that, but there's also no record of her staying. I mean, I'm sure somebody could dig up a record, but in articles, it was assumed that she was just released from hospital, was fine, went home to the U.S.
Right.
Sabina, who, remember, only went to court in 2009, was released on parole in 2011. So 2 years after her trial, she was already free from prison.
I'm not surprised.
So she didn't even serve her 5 years.
I'm not surprised about that.
It's thought that she returned back to her home in Ireland. Some reports think that maybe she could have went back to Sweden, where they were originally from, but no one really knows for sure. They made zero news after that, so they were under the radar. They didn't do anything, and so no one really kept track of them.
Yeah.
So it's not really known what happened to them afterwards, but from all reports, there's no news, which means they probably just went back to living their normal lives.
That's it. That was only 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Great. And we don't know where they are now.
Nope.
Okay. It's fine. I hope they are doing well and are healthy.
I hope they're separated.
And separated very far apart. I feel like the distance between Ireland and the US is sufficient. Mm-hmm. Hopefully.
I agree. If anyone wants to watch that stuff, just look up Ursula and Sabina Eriksson and go to YouTube, and you'll find it's like the first thing that comes up is that motorway show. There's like the little sidebars with all the cops and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Because they interview them, and you can see them running into traffic.
Wow. That is a wild story.
Yeah, so enjoy no closure, no answers, no explanation.
Great.
Just
now
chaos
I know how you
and
feel
death.
Every time I do that to you. Chaos.
Yeah,
and
you're
death.
the queen of unresolved cases.
Yeah.
So
I don't like it. I don't like it when they're done to me, though. Man, that's well, they must have. I wonder if they changed their name because of everything.
I would.
Yeah, I would too. I feel like their name that prominent in the news would probably not.
Their face is everywhere. You can see their picture everywhere.
True. Yeah. Plastic surgery gets rid of that.
Contact Megan for new identities.
No, please don't. Let's not do that and say we did. All right, it's my turn to
it's
read.
Your turn.
Yay! I gotta get my die here. Oh, Jesus. It's too far away. I got a 9. I feel like I roll a 9 every time I do this. I got Devil's Advocate. Ooh. Lots of different ways I could go with that one. Awesome. Well, thank you for that story, Nikki. It was very, very, very interesting. And no closure. Love it. I'm going to sleep really well tonight. Not. Thank you, everybody else, for joining us for this episode. If you want to follow us on social media, you know where to find us. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, at the Grimdark Diaries. And if you want to send us an email, tell us your crazy stories. We'd love to hear them. We're at thegrimdarkdiaries@gmail.com. And if you are listening to us today on an Apple podcast, we would love it if you went in there and just gave us a little 5-star rating and a little comment, or tell us a joke or do something funny. Give us a laugh. We would love to
do something funny.
Yeah, we like to laugh, as you know, as I'm sure you've heard us laugh a lot on this podcast, me especially. Yes, we would love it if you did that for us. That would be wonderful. Spotify, you can also give us a 5-star review. We would love you forever if you did that. All the other podcast platforms that you listen to us on, I believe some of them allow you to like, subscribe, follow, etc., whatever it is they allow you to do. We would love it if you did that for us, because it helps us get our name out there and more people can find us. So thank you again, and join us next week to see what I come up with for Devil's Advocate. And remember, a friend in the dark beats alone in the light.